Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Treva Stankard and I work in events and partner marketing at TitanHQ. We're delighted to have you all here today for what I expect to be a very interesting discussion on how MSPs can grow and scale their business. Let us know where you're tuning in from and where in the world you are. I'm in Galway, Ireland. So we have a great host of speakers today with vast industry knowledge and experience. So just before we get started, just some brief housekeeping, and then I'll introduce the speakers. So it will be a panel discussion today, so not the usual presentation deck. So it'll be led by TitanHQ's Eddie Monaghan and Marc Ludden. The webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to everyone after the event. You can feel free to send on to anyone in your team to watch back afterwards. You can ask questions throughout. I think we could be tight on time today because we've got a lot to get through and there's a lot of us here. So we'll try answer a couple at the end. If not, we'll contact you directly with the answers. So yeah, don't be shy. You can ask them throughout. So I'll introduce our speakers. So firstly, we've got Marc Ludden. So Marc is the VP of North American Sales at TitanHQ. He's worked in Titan for 13 years, starting out as business development and working his way through the ranks to head up our North American Sales Department. Alongside Marc, we have Eddie, Sales Enablement Officer. Eddie's been in MSP Titan Sales for 12 years, so they've been in the company for quite some time. Many people on the call might know Eddie and Marc from over the years. So both Marc and Eddie bring so much growth and experience and have seen a lot of change in their time at TitanHQ. So they bring so much MSP experience and knowledge to the table today. So joining Marc and Eddie, we're delighted to have two of our MSP customers. So we have Hunter McFadden, CEO of GreenQube, a very successful MSP based in Louisiana. Hunter has been working in IT since 1998 and started GreenQube in 2009. He has passion for IT and making digital employee experience much better. We're also joined by Marc Lamb. Marc Lamb. I was thinking to get my names mixed up. Too many Marcs. But yeah, we're here with Marc Lamb today, CEO and co-founder of High Ground, a platform designed to help MSPs sell more and reduce their risk. And Marc is also part of M3 Networks, a Scottish MSP, providing IT support and cybersecurity services to businesses across the UK since 2009. So both you guys have been in business for quite some time, since 2009. So yeah, thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate you're all so busy, so it's great to have you all here. Just one thing I want to do before we get started. I'm really intrigued to get the challenges that MSPs are facing. So I'm going to do a quick poll and then I'll leave you all alone and I'll sit in the background and let the experts speak. So if you could take just 2 seconds to answer this poll, I'll put it live now. Now I've launched that. This will be interesting to see. Marc, Eddie, can you see that poll?
It flicked up just for a moment, yeah, on the screen.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. I'll hide that for a minute. So I'll leave that there for a minute. Where in the world are you guys all tuning in from today? Marc, somewhere in Scotland, I think.
Yep, Perth, Scotland.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll kick on anyway with that. We'll continue on about the poll anyway, or finish it there. So, yes, so Marc, I will hand over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Treva. Look, welcome everyone. I suppose this is the first of a series of discussions that we'll be doing over the next few months. And I suppose the view of what we're looking to achieve with this series of discussion or webinars is to leverage our large MSP ecosystem so that we can kind of share experiences and learnings across our customer base. We're obviously very, very excited to have both Hunter and Marc talk about their journeys growing their MSPs. We really hope that you find this session valuable and that you get or gain some really good insight into some of the do's and don'ts of scaling an MSP from Hunter and Marc's perspective. So I suppose with the introductions all done and hopefully the poll all filled out, I suppose it's time to get the show on the road. So I suppose I'm going to start with you, Hunter, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I suppose, can you tell me or tell us a bit more about your MSP business, GreenQube? How long you've been in business, a bit more about the endpoints that you're protecting and any specific verticals that you sell to.
Sure. So we started GreenQube in 2009, primarily as a hosted desktop as a service platform to our clients. And we service about 5,000 users, 2,000 endpoints. What was the other question you asked? I'm sorry.
Any specific verticals that you sell into?
Oh, verticals. Verticals, we're in healthcare primarily and financial services.
Okay, great. And in terms of the number of staff, Treva mentioned that you started the business yourself in 2009. How many staff do you have now under GreenQube?
We now have 15 on our staff.
Great, great. Marc, same questions, please.
I'm trying to remember them. We're an MSP in Scotland. We've got about 2,500 endpoints and about the same in users, I would say. I don't count them exactly. About 25 staff. We work across multiple industries. We're not isolated to any one in particular, which good some ways and bad others. But yeah, we're probably more generalist than Hunter and focusing in on healthcare.
Okay. And you've been obviously TitanHQ partners for a while, and we'll speak about the partnership throughout the presentation. But really, in terms of setting up your business and scaling your business, can you give us a bit more of the journey to where you are today? And I'll kind of move to Marc for that question. How long did it take you to get to a place where you're comfortable, where you're growing the business at certain rates, and are you happy with the growth rates that you're achieving right now in your MSP?
Yeah, I'm not sure you ever become comfortable as an MSP. Every day is a challenge. Our journey was very much like the first 4 or 5 years. It was, I liken it to like an apprenticeship or like an internship, if you will, just learning business. Because we weren't business people when we started, we were engineers. And so it took quite a while I think, just to understand what we were doing. I think that resonates with a lot of MSPs, right? They go through that journey. And then from there, start thinking about like, how do we grow this? How do we find new customers? How do we get any good at sales? A lot of focus on the service part. So a very sort of windy road. It's not like a direct sort of track straight to success. So we've been growing, certainly for the last 5 years, we've been growing 30% year on year. And that has probably been down to a couple of key decisions that we made around about that time, which I think could help any MSP. Answers the question, does it?
Yeah, and I suppose, what were some of the key decisions that you made that I suppose evolved that growth over the last few years, Marc?
Yeah, I would say the single key thing that we did, well, maybe two. First one was hiring an account manager. That is the single biggest thing, and that was a really scary thing to do because me and my partners had a lot of the relationships, so the fear associated with that often holds a lot of people back. And the second one was probably more generalist, but getting off the tools. As much as I love being on the tools, if that translates across the pond, but getting away from that and focusing on working on the business is a hard thing to do because you just want to go back into everything. But hiring people that can take that on and then evolving yourself and what your business needs you to be, that's been a real challenge. But those are the things I would say are probably have generated the most of our growth. And then about three years after that, sort of 3 years ago, so a couple of years after that, we then hired a new business salesperson. I think a lot of MSPs get that wrong. They hire a new business salesperson first instead of actually focusing on expanding out their existing customers and their existing relationships there. So then we added that into the mix, which is then, you know, combined with account management. That sort of hunting and farming sort of approach really works in terms of increasing sales.
Hunter, from what Mark has mentioned there, has your journey been similar in that approach, or have you gone down a different route?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. You know, when we first started as engineers, and we would take on anybody and everybody that said, "Hey, can you do this for us?" Yeah, we can do that. And then we learned that, you know, maybe we should focus in on better defining who our target customer is, and also what kind of culture we wanted to cultivate in our company. And you know, that led to, you know, proper hiring of the right team, and also led to defining who our key customer is and who that target is. Because if the customer isn't a good fit, then we don't want them around. And if they're toxic, that creates a toxic environment as well. It's not just toxic employees you got to be cognizant of. You have to be aware of the toxic customers.
Yeah, it's a really important point, be it in an MSP or in any business that you look to scale, is making sure that you know who the right persona or profile business that you want to attain. Hunter, can you share with our audience a bit more to how you actually did that process? How did you decide what your sweet spot customer was?
It kind of boiled down to, where did we have our experience in? You know, my first IT job was in a hospital, so I learned a lot about healthcare IT, and going through that process. So we ended up, that's kind of a strong point for us, was healthcare. Had a lot of, you know, people that I had met through being in healthcare. So just, we basically started out with, who do we know? Who are we networking with? Who did, I don't know, I guess a really good question would be, is who do I want to be friends with? You know, that's where I started at. My customer base is people that I related to, people I can be friends with. Not necessarily that I would invite them over to dinner every night, but at least be friendly, be friends with, have a good relationship with, and then serve them with excellence.
Mark, similar question, because you mentioned something very similar to Hunter in terms of profiling and going after, you know, the right type of customers. How did you go about deciding on who's the right customer for you?
We kind of started off the way that Hunter has described. And for us, actually, those industries that we were focusing on were healthcare, mostly actually in the UK here, it would be dentistry. But actually, that industry went through a period of consolidation around about that same time. So a lot of our opportunity was actually disappearing. The market was, you know, aggregating, and they were thought, hang on, you know, we've got to be very careful here because we could get ourselves in a real muddle. The same thing actually, just even as recently as 4 or 5 years ago, we were quite a presence in the automotive industry, and the same thing happened. Private equity comes in and they try to start, you know, buying everything up. You try to create relationships at the highest level, but you know, there's often only going to be one winner there. And so we actually have, despite all these years, we've actually taken a slightly different approach, and that typically we find a slightly more generic MO of a client of ours, which would be somebody who is multi-site. Because of the way that we've positioned our business in Scotland, we've got 3 locations. We actually have a bit of a presence down in the north and the northwest as well, but we're positioned in a way that organisations that have multiple sites have a need to, you know, because all business is local, right? And they all kind of want to know that you're within their region. And so companies that are working in Scotland is obviously quite a large country in terms of travel time. Maybe not, it's not nowhere near as big as the United States, of course, but in the UK it can take quite some time to get around. And so the way that we set ourselves up, we were quite a valuable proposition to customers who said, we've got a site in 2 different parts of the country, and we want to make sure we don't want to use 2 providers. We want to use one provider that can cater to our needs. And so we were well positioned for that. Certainly, company as we've grown, the ideal client profile has changed as well. So it's gone from like Hunter, would have probably taken on anyone who had a computer. That has changed from that to like, minimum clients for ours are certainly a minimum of 10, but ideally a minimum of 20, 25 computers and above is sort of where we're looking at. And then the upper end of the market, getting into co-managed, that's a whole other ball game. But we do have offerings in the co-managed space as well. But you've really got to be positioned to do that, or else it just brings you a whole load of stress.
Yeah, it's from my experience talking to a lot of our MSPs that are now partners, something you both mentioned, especially in the infancy of certain MSPs, as they grow and as they scale their businesses, they will take anybody's business, but that can sometimes come at a cost. And it's very important, be a vendor, be an MSP or an SMB, to understand the market that you want to go after and be focused on that market, because with focus comes results. You mentioned, Mark, 10 to 25 seats is definitely the kind of area that you really focus on in terms of user count. Hunter, for GreenQube, where does that user count sit in terms of your ideal customer?
Yeah, so I mean, we do have some minimums. Being in the hosted desktop environment, we have found that 50 plus is a good place to start. But that anything below that, we start looking at: are you gonna grow? Are you in a position to grow? How can we help you grow? And so a lot of those qualifiers start coming in to play in that area. And so if it's like a 5 or 10 user kind of company, we definitely need to know, hey, you're gonna grow, or there's gonna be a premium, because for the same cost of infrastructure and support staff and all that, I can go support 50 users as opposed to 5 users. And so same time of acquisition, same time of commitment to serve. So it's got to be worth the endeavor. I'm not saying that people with 5 employees or less is not a good business. It's just, is it a fit for us, and can we adequately serve them, and can they afford the services that we offer?
Yeah.
Hunter, you mentioned about your network and networking within that space being very important to you. How about referrals? Are referrals something that you find yourself asking for? Do they walk in the door to you, or is it difficult to get referrals, I suppose is the question?
It's not difficult to get referrals when I actually ask.
Okay.
So it's the asking for the referrals that I think we sometimes forget to do.
But when you ask, you get, which is great.
Yeah.
Mark, you mentioned about your customer acquisition and the fact that employing an account manager in the early days was very important. How does when you're employing an account manager, you've got your existing accounts, and obviously you're looking to acquire new accounts. How does the hunting, farming thing play into that decision? Are you looking for an all-rounder? Are you looking for someone that's specific in I suppose, expanding those accounts, or how does that sit with you?
So yeah, we find that those people are very hard to find. Like, if some people are hard to find, you're probably better not trying to find them, right? If we try to break them down. So this sort of hunt and farm is like a mentality more as much as it is a skill, right? So the people who are doing our new business development are not the same people who are doing our account management. So our account management team are you can imagine account management expand the account, but our new business salespeople are out there trying to land the account. And so we have very clear delineation between them that keeps them both focused, but they both come under sales in our organization. Because although what happens is that you end up with a bunch of account managers that if you comp them in the wrong way, they end up just sitting on these accounts making money forever, and they're not they're not doing what they need to do for the business. And so it's important that, well, at least for us, that that's the only way that we found would work. We tried it the other way, we had it the other way around, and it just was not working. So we changed it up, and this definitely works a lot better for us.
Are there any kind of key successes or key things that you would point to that drives the success of new customer acquisition with your business development team?
Yeah. We've been pretty successful over the last couple of years doing these lunch and learns. I know people just talk about that a lot, but we have a slightly, I don't know how everyone else is doing them, but the way that our team approach them is that they're pretty small, they're quite close knit, and there's a couple of tactics. I mean, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this particular part, but I know that like one little thing they do is to get the customer or the attendee to choose their lunch. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but apparently, if you choose your lunch beforehand, the drop-off rate massively reduces. Maybe because you know what you're getting for your lunch, but something really small like that has a real impact. Like they talk about it all the time, like they swear by it that this is what you should do. So that these lunch and learns and these little tactics about getting people there and making sure you deliver value, making sure that they don't feel like they've been sold really hard to, and also they're quite small. You know, there's never any more than 15 people in them, and they're careful not to invite the competitors in beside each other, so it's quite a safe space. And
Right.
they often start talking to each other about their own problems as well. So it almost becomes like networking for them too. And obviously picking a nice location, a nice place to do it, that also has a good bearing.
Interesting. Yeah, I must remember that one for sure. Hunter, to ask you, do you ever find yourself turning away customers or sacking customers?
Yes, we have fired some customers. It goes back to that toxicity, right? We've had some customers that were toxic. Just either they didn't treat our team well, and so it made it hard for our team to want to serve them.
Okay.
And so you always run into those type of people, and you have to have the crucial conversation with them to say, hey, if this doesn't change, then we've got to let you go. And sometimes it doesn't change, and so therefore you have to let them go. And that could also be, to the tune of, hey, we have our set security stack, and you're at risk, and if we don't change this, you're still going to be at risk, but now we're at risk, and that's not a good fit either. And so when you, just as much as that would be context for quote firing a customer or sacking a customer, as you said, that could be a good context for bringing on a customer. Go into their environment. How do they treat each other? How do they treat their customers? Because how they treat each other, how they treat their customers is ultimately going to how they treat you. And then so that's one aspect, and the other aspect is that we do take into consideration, hey, where are you at in your security posture or your cyber posture, however you want to say that, and then where do you want to grow, and are you willing to grow there? Because there's some people that come into this and they're not protected, they don't have the right tool stacks, they don't have the right mindset and posture. But if we can't coach, lead them, and guide them along that journey, then they're not going to be a fit, and it's going to be a bumping of heads along the way. And this, hey, maybe you're a better fit for somebody else because you relate to them better.
Great, thank you.
Oh, sorry, you're waiting for me to answer the question as well.
Yeah, I think Marc Ludden, you're on mute there, Marc.
Oh, sorry, I was actually on mute. Technology these days. Hunter, I'm going to ask the same question to you, Marc. But when you look back at your starting point in 2009, would you ever thought that you'd be, not that you want to be firing people and saying no to business, but it can be an uncomfortable position to be in. When you come from your days of growing the business and you want all the business you can probably get in and the revenue that you can get in. And some of our MSPs are on the session right now are probably getting to that space where they're trying to profile who their ideal customer is, and they're looking at some of their customers and saying, really, we should be letting them go. is there any advice in that journey? Is it, do it? I suppose it's probably going to be your answer, but is there any kind of nuggets of information that you could share with them on your view around that, and I suppose the benefits of doing this?
Is that a question to me or to Mark Hunter?
That was to you, Mark, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thought you were talking to Hunter there.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, obviously, firing a customer is not an easy thing to do, right? We've tried to get them to fire us. We've tried to fire them ourselves. Like I think we've tried every permutation of that. In terms of if the question was how to approach that and how to go around it, from experience, I would say just get on with it and speak to them. I mean, oftentimes customers know it. Like if you're feeling it, they're feeling it too. It's not like a one-way thing. Because like if they're constantly like nagging you and getting in the way and they feel like they're not getting the service, then oftentimes like when we'll sit down with the client and have a conversation, we'll say, look, obviously address an elephant in the room. It's because you as an MSP have grown and they likely haven't, and they want it to be how it used to be, but you're trying to move on and be different, and they're kind of like a thorn in your side. We've got a great example of, we were just talking about it in our leadership meeting this morning, about this customer who just walks into the office. They still think that's acceptable, just to walk right in here with the computer because they're in the same building as us, right? And you're thinking, oh man, you can't just do that. You can't just walk in here. But they don't listen. So sitting down with the customer and explaining, look, things have changed. It's not how it used to be, and we're maybe not the best fit for you anymore. I think it's a better moral way of dealing with it than simply like hiking the price and hoping they go away, because in the process of that, they're going to cause you even more heartache by complaining and dragging you into meetings and telling you that things aren't what they used to be. So I think that explaining like this is how things work. The biggest challenge I think we've had with that is that because we've grown, the things that we used to do don't work anymore. So we just can't do it. If some guy takes that computer that comes in through the door and he fixes it, guess what? Something else that was scheduled for a customer in London doesn't get done. And that customer gets upset. I mean, trying to explain, like, we have a way of working because it's the only way we can guarantee that quality in customer service that we provide. So if we start doing things like we used to do them, the wheels start to fall off and everybody gets upset, and that's no good for anybody either. And customers are generally understanding of that, but oftentimes the customers who do that, they do tend to go and work with smaller MSPs who will give them that service that they became accustomed to you providing. So I think it's better just to be honest and upfront and just explain that you've changed and grown, and you can't really force them to change. So if they don't want to, then they should probably find someone that can give them what they want.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I was hoping you would say that, because even ourselves, as we have scaled and evolved as a business, we've had to have that conversation with people. And as Treva mentioned, myself and Eddie have been here 13 years, and we would at the start be open arms with any type of business and any type of revenue coming in. But again, like yourselves in your journeys, we've had to really sit down and identify who is our market, who are we after, who we're going to focus on, and build our products and build to our strengths around that profile. And what I found in my own personal experience there, Mark, is it's having those tough conversations and having that honesty policy and that integrity around, we just don't feel it's a fit anymore for our partnership. And as you mentioned, the customer knows, and so do we, and it's really important, I think, to have that honesty.
We've even sorry to interject there, Mark, but we've even got relationships with our local competitors that are smaller than us, and we'll often be like, I'll give them a name. Hey Eddie, I've got a customer that's probably a better fit for you. So when you approach the customer, you're like, I've already got this alternative guy for you, and they feel better, instead of just because they feel like, oh my goodness, who am I going to speak to now? Like, it's like, Eddie's here, he's ready to speak to you, man. He wants to look after you. And they're like, okay, that's even, because it's like that thing, right? When they leave, you want to leave them with a good impression too. You don't want to leave them with a bad impression, especially if they've been with you for a lot of years. You almost owe them the decency.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a matter of, I suppose, respect, and at least there you're coming with a solution to the problem. You're helping them along that journey. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to kind of move on slightly. again, back to the MSP space and how it has evolved over the number of years. I suppose for me, when I've spoken to MSPs, if I go back 8 or 10 years, there would have been a lot of MSPs that would have been very much a la carte type services. And what I mean by that is, again, open arms to business coming in and letting the customer rule the roost in terms of the services that they brought into their MSPs. So if I'm on a Spam Titan license, but Mark, you don't sell Spam Titan, well, you know, they were asking for you to bring in that service. And they came to a place where a lot of MSPs would have like 3 or 4 email securities. They have 3 or 4 DNS providers and so forth. And that comes with their own problems, as we all know. From your own career or from your own experiences with GreenQube and M3 network, did you ever go down the route of a la carte menus, or were you very, I suppose, strict on here's my stack, here's my offering, and if you're signing up to my MSP, you're getting this service, and this is the service that you're getting? And this one's for you, Hunter.
Yeah, so one of the things I learned before even starting GreenQube is try to keep things simple, and that's a difficult thing to do. And so that, you know, if you can keep it cookie cutter, so to speak, as far as your tool stack, as far as your offerings go, then that makes it easy for you to offer the same thing and be efficient and keep things simple. And you know exactly, you know, if it's Spam Titan, then you know exactly what to go fix in Spam Titan to release the emails or to do the proper rules or the proper setup of the customer. So that being said, you know, as far as bringing on a new customer, we onboard them into our tool stack. Sometimes it's not all at once, sometimes it's over time, because they may have a commitment with the, you know, a tool that they're currently using, that, you know, they need to get them out of at some point. But the idea is that one of the questions we ask our customers is that if you're locked into this tool, how well do you like it? And are you willing to transition over to something new that we can manage more easily? And we have a conversation with them around that. Say, hey, if we can simplify the tool stack for us, it makes us more efficient in helping you. It's a benefit both ways. It's win-win.
Question there, how does that play in when an existing vendor you're working with brings in a new product into the stack and you decide you want to move that into your clients? How we brought Fish Titan to the market, obviously, quite recently, and we're seeing good demand on it. How do you bring that into the conversation with your stack? So you've already set your stack, now you want to add something in there. Is that a renewal time, or is it an upsell, or do you eat the cost, or how does that sit?
Well, I think that depends, right? So brand new product for us. Like if we're not offering it, we'll pick a couple key clients that we have really good relationships, and I call them raving fans. They're the people who are going to give us referrals whether we ask them for or not. That's a good thing. And so I'll go to them and typically and say, okay, hey, we've got this new anti-phishing software that we want to interject into your business, and we think it's going to, you know, better protect your email services for you and give you some heads up on whether it's a phishing email or not. Let me put it in there for free. I want to see how you like it. Let's try it out for the next 3 months, and then we'll go from there.
Excellent. Mark, how do you approach it with your customer base when you're bringing a new product into the stack?
Yeah, for me, I think this is a case of do as I say and not as I do. I've made the mistake that I would suggest you don't make, which is many of the things that our vendors are bringing now are like micro innovations, right? They're innovations that make the service fundamentally better. Fish Titan as an example, but there's so much product in the market and the customer. If you go to your customer and talk product, it's really hard to sell because they don't really care for product. They care for solutions that you're going to provide. And so my advice would be don't build your stack. I mean, you should always be looking at your stack and should always be trying to innovate and improve on that. But you should make sure that you leave sufficient room in there with margin overheads to be able to have some expansion in terms of cost, I should say. So extra margin in there to be able to accommodate it, because this is happening all the time. So that means speaking to your vendors, finding out what they're bringing out next, getting a rough idea of what you think that's going to cost. And then of course you're going to pass those costs on, but you're going to do that probably annually, something like that. So you're not going to be eating that cost for long. But I think that is the biggest challenge for MSPs right now is vendor comes along with a shiny new thing, and of course we want it, but we don't want to sell it to the customer because that's going to be painful. Well, what do we do? We're stuck. We kind of dig ourselves into that hole by approaching the problem the way that we do. We need to get smarter. Well, maybe I just need to get smarter.
Interesting. I guess your solution selling is really, you're hitting the nail on the head there with your business development and your farmers as well to talk to solving the problem as opposed to the actual technologies. But yeah, really interesting. How does platform play into that? I know we've launched our platform. We've 2-3 products in there now. In fact, how important is having all of those solutions in a single platform? Does that resonate with the end customer, or is that more for your convenience and the customer's convenience? Maybe Hunter, throw that over to you first.
Yeah, I think that it goes back to this, keeping things simple concept, right? If I have a single pane of glass that I can manage things through, then that simplifies the stack for our techs, our engineers to get in there and manage. If I've got to have an app or a browser open for every tool that we have to manage it, that makes it hard. And I think that's why we look at PSA and RMM integrations, and how much of that can come into a ticket that I can click on in a ticket to go manage, and what integrations and automations can we put in, because that makes us more efficient. That makes it it simplifies the management of that stack and allows us to go deliver customer service, which is what we want to do. We want to develop those relationships. We want to actually have a conversation with the customer, not always answering an alarm bell somewhere.
That's where your referrals come from, that service. Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Mark, what's your view on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously platform is definitely where it's at, right? I mean, that's, you're sitting watching the battle of the Titans at the minute between like ConnectWise and Kaseya, right, and what's going on there, and that's a slightly different stack, right? That's the sort of RMM, PSA, documentation, RPA sort of thing that's going on. But absolutely, I mean, as Hunter says, it's about efficiency at the end of the day, but it's probably too good, arguably, unless you want to get really deep in bed with one of them, which is a risk in itself, then you probably need to be thinking both, yeah, we want to be using a platform with one vendor, aggregating as many of those technologies that fit well together with one vendor, on one platform. But that platform's got to be interconnectable through APIs to other platforms, right? Because if not, then you're locked in, and that can really affect, like Hunter says, you're with a client and you want to do something and you really need to bend the rules or do something a little bit different, and if you can't do that, you're completely at the mercy of that platform. So
right.
I think this idea that you could have one single platform, I mean, it's a great idea, but well, certainly not here yet. And other people would say different, but depends how much you want to put your faith in all those vendors.
It's all about layered security, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you really do. Like you can't put all your eggs in one basket. I think you definitely have to layer across multiple vendors so that you're not at risk and you're leveraging that risk, Mark. I think, back to the platform play, and Hunter and Mark, you both mentioned the single pane of glass and how that would make your life easier from a tech perspective, from an onboarding perspective. But in terms of like creating new revenue streams and presuming by having one or two or three vendors that you deal with specifically that have multiple products, it gives you the ability to generate more revenue streams. So when you're looking at potentially new vendors to bring on into your stack, does that come into your decision-making process that they have multiple products, or is it very much a case of it's a certain product that I need right now in my stack, and if they only have one product or only offer one service, I'm okay with that as long as the product works. Mark, I'll pass that one to you.
Yeah, I've just gone through this exercise, so I can answer it from direct experience. That what I found is that sadly most of the vendors doing this, they have one really strong offering, often the one that you've worked with them because of, but then the other parts are maybe just not as fully featured or fully developed. And so as techs, we're always like, oh, we want the best product, or we want the best, there's a best solution, and it's an internal battle with yourself often. It's like, do we really need all those little bells and whistles that we get with this other vendor that's more of a pure play in that area, or do we go with this one vendor that's got 2 or 3 solutions, but one of them's really good, the other 2 are not quite where I want them to be. But I think you can temper that with the commercials, right? You have to. I think that, like anything, if you're going out to buy a new product, you need to know what you want it to do. So you should at least write down, like, your 10, like, it must do these 5 key things. That's essential. Everything else is bells and whistles, because often I think MSPs and probably most customers don't actually understand what they want. So they want it all and then realize, I don't need it all, right? So you're causing yourself unnecessary stress. And then, of course, when you get into the conversation of financials, and if you find out that it's cheaper, then you're even more stressed because you're like, oh, I really should do it because it's cheaper, I can make more of a margin. But then you're kind of getting yourself tied in knots thinking, oh, but all these other functions and features are really essential. So I think get clear on what you're going for before you start going out shopping. Don't go window shopping for products.
Hunter, what's your perspective on this?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, it's from a vendor selection process. I mean, we just switched PSAs, we switched RMMs because of vendor relationship, not necessarily because of the product didn't work. Some of it was a vendor relationship. Some of it was it didn't adequately allow us to serve our customers in the capacity we wanted to. And so we made some switches, and we did a lot of vetting. Because there isn't a lot of new players in the market, on that side. So when it comes to vendor selection for, a part of the tool stack is it's going to come down to price is one of the last things we look at, but it goes back to defining that culture. Is the partner a good fit for us as well? Is the employee a good fit? Is the customer a good fit? Because if we can remove a lot of the barriers, through conversations up front, those are conversations we don't have to have down the road. And so, yeah, vendor relationship is good. Does the tool work? Does the tool deliver on what they promised? And as Mark said, does it cross the T's and dot the I's on our list of needs? And then there are the wants. The needs have to be met first, and then the wants can come later.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this right, in terms of like the most important criteria for you when picking a vendor is definitely that vendor relationship between you in terms of being a right fit and being able to work with that relationship with that vendor. After that, then obviously the product has to do what it says in the tin.
Yeah, the product has to deliver, but I'm going to look at the vendor relationship for sure.
Okay. And Mark, is that the same type of ranking in terms of what's important to you when you're looking at new vendors?
Yeah, I mean, I probably should have said what Hunter said there too about the relationships. That's absolutely essential. You've got to be able to work with them, because otherwise it's just a nightmare. You just can't get anywhere. Because let's be honest, you see all the shiny stuff in the sales process. It's only when you start to use it that you start to uncover the other stuff. And if you can't deal with the people that you're going to deal with, then it just escalates into a much bigger issue, right? So yeah, I would agree with what Hunter's saying too.
Guys, how long are we working together? Hunter with GreenQube, how long are GreenQube and TitanHQ? And I should know this, partners.
We were actually partnered with Titan before I started GreenQube, so
Wow.
Since 2005.
Wow, fantastic. Mark, how long are we working together?
Oh, jeez, this is like when your wife asks you how long you've been married for.
Love it, love it.
Trick
Great to hear
question.
the relationship is that close. That's brilliant. It's a long
It's
time.
got to
So.
be 8 years, eight
Wow,
years or more.
fantastic.
And Mark was a
Wow.
professional football player, so count back.
I still
Yeah,
see his way.
I actually sold it to you, Mark. I think it was 2017, 2018. I think would have been the time. So
I
yeah,
wasn't far away.
a long,
Yeah.
yeah, a while back, a while back.
I think we're nearly clean out of time, guys. Lots of really
Yeah,
great takeaways there.
I suppose one segue in terms of, because both of you have been with us for quite a while, and you've been with us through our scale and our growth and our continued growth and scale, and we've all kind of grown along this journey, which is great. What is probably maybe one of the key one or two things that you like from working with TitanHQ? And I'll start with you, Hunter, since you're here with us a bit longer than Mark.
It's got to be the accent, Mark. No, it has the relationship we've had with Titan has been a really good one. So as far as partners and vendors go, we've enjoyed the relationship the most. You got a good
Mark?
product, but the people are better.
Appreciate that. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say first of all the people, for sure. And I've had the benefit and pleasure of meeting some very senior people at Titan, and it goes all the way through the organization, which is rare. Sometimes you get one or two good people, but you don't see that all the way through. So and sort of the openness to talk and communicate that we're not perfect, but we're working on it. And probably the second thing would be that I've seen that play out as well. That's probably the combination of those two things work well, because we have gone through times when it hasn't been great, and but you asked us to stick with you, and as we did, and sorted them problems out. And I say to our customers, judge us on how we respond, not on necessarily the problems we have. And I'd be a hypocrite not to do the same with vendors. And you guys are one of the few that have actually seen it through, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, just to mention that, Mark, I think for us, our CEO Ronan has been in the building for 18 or 19 years, and myself and Eddie, we're employee number 6 and 11. So we've tried to maintain that culture and that DNA of customer first the whole way throughout. And it's tech, things happen, things break, and it's about at that point getting on the call, having the honest conversation, just like when you potentially let a customer go, own the issue, and then make sure that we address the issue and get the service back up and running, and make sure that you're back in a happy place where you were when you first initially bought. So there will always be hiccups, and there'll be many more hiccups along the way. Hopefully not, but when it does happen, we're definitely there to get on the call and own that if that's the case. I think that's an important trait in any business that we have. I think Tree, I know we had a lot of great content, which is really, really good. I suppose for me to kind of summarize and finish up and kind of give some of the MSP partners a sneak preview in terms of the platform, especially the conversation that myself or we all had around some of the benefits of it. We have now, I suppose we've done a lot of different things around overhauling our MSP journey for our MSP partners. So we've changed the customer or the partner portal. We've restructured our sales teams. We are a long way down the road of having all our solutions within one single pane of glass. And what we've really focused on, and we built this from the ground up, is focused on ease of onboarding, making sure that like Fish Titan can now be onboarded within 6 or 7 minutes. That's the kind of SLA that we have internally, and we're hitting those type of stats. So within this view right now, we have our Fish Titan, which is our advanced anti-phishing solution. We have a phishing simulation solution, which is now in beta and will be released soon over the next few weeks. And we have our email archiving solutions. We have 3 of our 6 products within this platform. We will, by the end of end of 2024, or Q1 of 2025 have all our solutions integrated within the view, and we're really excited because we feel that this is a real game changer when done properly. And we've really tasked our dev team to think about everything that we do within our products through the lens of an MSP. So really focused on making sure that onboarding, ease of use, configuration can be pushed out to all your customers within one single pane of glass. And I suppose the last value add that I would add to this will be my only selling of the session, is really around giving the MSP the ability to have 6 solutions. We know our solutions kind of sit very, very well in terms of the key elements of every MSP cybersecurity stack that you offer to your customers, and it's about giving you the ability to create new revenue streams through our platform and using our different services. Because when you onboard one of our products, you will be onboarding 3 or 4 as we move on throughout our journey. So it'll be very easy for you to switch on different services and manage your customers across this view. So really, really excited. You know, we've spoken about some of this journey to our MSPs, because we meet a lot of our MSPs regularly, and this is the feedback that we've heard. We're now step 3 done. We're working on step 4, and we'll have step 6 done, you know, by hopefully end of 2024, but definitely early 2025. So exciting things, and I just want to kind of give you a preview of where we're going within our MSP journey.
Brilliant. Wow, lots of good takeaways there. Relationships matter, and let them pick their own lunch as well, as a good one.
Big one.
That was
It's the most important one.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you all so much for coming and joining us today. I think there was some really great discussions there and some really great takeaway points. So yeah, and thank you for everyone to attending. I know everyone's so busy. So I really appreciate everyone's time. I've just put together a little survey. So if you don't mind, for the attendees, we don't mind just do a quick feedback, see how you enjoyed the session. We've also put in a question there about future discussions and yeah, things you'd like to see, things like that. So I know there's a question here about sales and kind of incentives for the sales team, and we were talking about this the other day about maybe potential future discussion about the business development side for your MSP business. So yeah, lots of things coming. So give us your feedback, and thank you all so much for being here today. Hunter and Mark, really appreciate your time. It was amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. It was really enjoyable. Thank you.
See you next time. Bye.